Welcome, and thank you for joining us today on the Leadership Café, where we talk to extraordinary people leading remarkable businesses. We're your hosts. I'm Richard Citron.
And I'm Michael Couch. We found in times of disruption like we're all experiencing right now that it's been very enlightening and even entertaining to turn to some of our finest leaders across the country and find out what they're doing to lead their businesses, to provide leadership for their teams and their employees, and also contributing to our communities to help make everything run just a little bit better right now, which I think we could all vote for at the moment.
Absolutely. Before we get too far along, we want to thank our sponsor, Vaco, a global talent solutions company. We really appreciate their support of the Leadership Cafe. And today we're excited to be meeting up with Bruno Kurtic. Bruno is the founding VP and the man who runs product management and strategy for SumoLogic, which just recently got listed on the NASDAQ stock exchange. So congratulations on that, Bruno. And I know Sumo collects, analyzes, and manages log data for organization enterprise software. But I think it would be helpful for you to give a little bit more explanation. And of course, we want to welcome you and thank you for joining us on the Leadership Cafe today.
Absolutely. I'm happy to do that. So SumoLogic is this year, a 10-year-old company.
Oh.
We are a machine data analytics service or platform. We were founded in 2010 really to solve the problem of managing massive machine-generated data sets that are used by our customers to run their digital properties and to secure their digital properties. And the problem we set out to solve was, as we sort of worked in our previous jobs, the founding team, we actually worked at companies that competed against each other, and we got put together through a serendipitous event to start SumoLogic. We were looking at this data growing at the rate of Moore's law, essentially growing at an exponential rate. Our customers were spending a lot of time trying to rig up systems, scale them, make them run effectively and efficiently, and it was a hard job to do. So we decided, okay, we're going to solve those two problems. One problem was scale, of being able to handle the exponential growth of data that's being generated by these digital services. And the second problem was, even once you solve the scale of being able to collect all of that data, to actually go and figure out what it's telling you. What is the data carrying, right? Even if you have it and if you can't analyze it, it's really useless, right? And so we spent a lot of effort applying advanced techniques like machine learning and advanced statistical analysis and others to allow our customers to gain insights from that data. And they typically use those insights to either in their DevOps, SRE development teams, help manage their digital properties like their retail sites, their media entertainment sites, whatever they might be, or helping their security teams or DevSecOps teams defend those sites, defend the customer data privacy and all that. And so that's the core of Sumo. We are a multi-tenant cloud native only. We don't deploy software. Our customers never have to worry about that. We run the software, they use the software.
Got it.
Right.
Tell us a little bit about your leadership path. How did you you're a founding member of SumoLogic. What's been your leadership journey a little bit?
Sure. So my background is, first off, I'm a refugee from Bosnia. I came here during the war in the early 90s. And so I was one of the lucky ones to have just gotten here through an exchange program as that was starting. And so I've basically been here for 20 plus years at this point. But my path seems to always want to be starting something from scratch. Like my entire career, the last 30 years, for the most part, has been start this company, start that company, start this company. And so I've been on the path of startups for quite a while. I haven't founded them all, but I've joined many startups, and some of them I founded myself. My background is software development. That's what I studied. I've always done enterprise software, even during the days in the 2000s when it was a dirty word to be an enterprise software person. Not everybody wanted to be in social media or whatever, consumer. I could only understand what enterprises might want, and that's always what I gravitated to. And so I've been sort of doing that my entire career. And at some point, I decided to switch from actually writing software to actually managing software into kind of more of a product management strategy role, I got my graduate degree at MBA at MIT in early 2000s, and since then I've been kind of working at companies like Boston Consulting Group, and then back into startups to be head of product, and that's been my career. And I can't imagine doing anything else. This is what I love to do. Like, I like to build things from scratch, solve problems that no one solved. And here we are at SumoLogic 10 years in, and I think we've done some good things.
Yes,
that's fantastic.
Yeah, one thing I've recognized from our discussions with some top leaders is there's three pieces. It seems to be there's a passion, there's a capability, but then boy, there's a strong market need, and you seem to have covered those. So we appreciate your passion. What do you think throughout your unique career helped prepare you as a leader for the challenges that organizations have faced this year?
From my perspective, look, I've spent a lot of my young life dealing with adversity of various kinds.
Yes.
Right? I grew up in a Eastern European country. Lack of freedoms, lack of free speech. Not a whole lot of money, all of that stuff. Then I moved here. The war started. I was by myself. At one point, I had $4 in a bank account. I didn't have a legal immigration status. I was legally in the U.S., but I didn't have a status that allowed me to work, so I was kind of stuck. And so I've always had to kind of work through these things. And that, when I kind of tie that together with, if you translate that kind of adversity, fighting adversity, learning how to, beat those challenges in front of you, if you turn that towards a business problem, right? It's a similar problem. It's a little bit less stressful sometimes, but nevertheless,
Good.
right?
Good. Yeah.
You have to figure out how to solve a problem and beat a competitor with 50 times lower budgets, fewer people, fewer customers, and you're scrappy. You are more nimble, and you apply those kind of that agility and flexibility that you have with a small organization to actually do things better. And that, I think, what a startup's journey typically is. And I kind of thrive in that. And I don't know whether there's some psychological map that always wants me to go back to what I grew out of. But regardless, I enjoy it.
Yes.
Yeah. I think what we've seen, and in our research with leaders, successful leaders, is a real interest in learning, and where do you learn the best as well as from a challenging situation. So you've seen that in spades. So it seems to be very, very appropriate for somebody to continue to do that through their lifelong learning. Yeah.
Do you think you'll continue to take that journey of where's the next great challenge and look to a startup, or do you think there's something beneficial at this stage in your career? Say, it's okay to have a little bit of stability at this stage, and let me continue to grow what I've planted already.
Yeah, I don't know that I would be comfortable with stability. I don't know. I oftentimes think, and every time when I was in these other startups before Sumo and during Sumo, that, okay, I'm tired. I got to go rest. I got to take a break and do something easier and whatever. And I do that for a few weeks, maybe a few months, and then I go like, okay, I can't do this anymore.
What's next?
And so I imagine that I'll take a little bit of a break at some point. I do other things like, I make wine, I make beer, I do other things that suit the soul, that are kind of crafty and things like that. So I might do some of that on the side. But basically, I feel that even if I join a larger company for whatever reason, it'll probably be to lead some new initiative or something like that, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's just in your blood. So what do you think about the pandemic? And I don't know how, some technology companies have done great during this period of time. It really hasn't impacted their business, but I'm sure you've heard from some companies, that some of your customers perhaps, that have been challenged. What have you seen that Sumo has done, SumoLogic has done, your leadership has done, to kind of address some of the challenges of 2020?
Sure, it's a great question. Look, I think, I've actually spent quite a bit of time, of my own personal time, doing a bunch of analysis on what's happening in the industries around the world, pre and post COVID. We happen to sit on a treasure trove of data.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Exactly. We're a data processing company. And the first question I asked when this started is like, okay, so what's going on here? How are our customers going to get impacted? Which industries are going to get impacted, and things like that. And I spent a bunch of time kind of doing continuous intelligence analysis on our own data, practice kind of what we preach, and realized that there is a really interesting discontinuity that has been created in this journey from traditional business model to a digital business model. As you guys know, enterprises and industries are transforming, like they're getting disrupted by various startups like Airbnb disrupting hospitality or Uber disrupting transportation. And that journey didn't start now. It started 25, 30 years ago when the World Wide Web came, right? When the banks became online banks and all that stuff. And so that journey continues. There's many more years of that journey to go on. But the COVID pandemic created a discontinuity. And the way that it created a discontinuity is basically once we all shut down, sheltered in place, all of a sudden, we couldn't do things the old way. We couldn't go out and shop. We couldn't go out and go to a ball game. We couldn't go to restaurants. We couldn't do any of these things. So what do you do? So what happened in the industries all around us is that, number one, people started working from home. People working from home were entertaining from home, were shopping from home, were doing everything from home. And the only way to do that is through digital services. So a bunch of enterprises out there who were digital benefited from this, and a bunch of laggards suffered from this, right? And we looked at the data, and so we realized that a lot of the sort of companies that struggled are the ones that required physical proximity of people. The companies who didn't, they thrived, and so it was really interesting of how this affected the businesses around the world. And there's lots more to talk about that, but that was the first finding, right?
Yeah. And tell me a little bit more about, I like the term continuous intelligence. I think that's your branding, that's the approach that you take. How is that different than other analytical approaches when it comes to machine data?
Good question. Continuous intelligence is different in a way that, kind of liken it most to like business intelligence, right? Business intelligence, traditional business intelligence is very much like prescribed. You know what you want to measure, and then you go backwards in your process and figure out how to get the data to measure it. Continuous intelligence in the world of digital companies essentially can't work that way because, in the world of digital services, software companies, every company is becoming a software company. And in order to compete better in the digital business, the way you compete is you deliver better software products, better digital products. And in order to innovate faster, you have to write software faster in a more agile way. And when that happens, you're pushing new software to production every day.
Yeah.
So you can't prescribe the data you want. You're going to have to take the data that's available and then analyze it in real time. And tomorrow that data might be irrelevant, and there may be new data. And continuous intelligence is basically an approach that enables enterprises to harvest all of that in real time, skip all of those expensive, data warehousing processes, and get insights fast. That's what we think of as.
Wow. Wow, so I like that. The perspective is that almost every company is becoming a software or digital company. Yeah. What does that mean from an executive leader standpoint? What should they be watching? What should they be paying attention to through that kind of discontinuity and disruption?
It's a great question. Couple of things. Going back to COVID, right? One of the things that we realized really quickly when COVID struck is that our customers had to adapt. All of a sudden, there was a massive influx from our customer base. Again, because of the nature of our business, they were like, okay, we need you to help us with managing our single sign-on, our endpoint security, our productivity apps. Like all of a sudden, everybody's using Salesforce and Office 365 all from home. How do we monitor it? Everybody's on Zoom. How do we monitor Zoom? Who's on Zoom? Do we have strange people appearing in our Zooms? There was all this Zoom bombing attacks.
Yes. Yeah.
So we within the 3 weeks of COVID hitting, we announced a bunch of free solutions to our customers. We actually created a schools and education solution for free that helped them manage remote learning because we thought everybody has kids. Everybody's kids are struggling to go figure out how to learn. So we released a lot of free for various industries, and that has helped many of our customers and non-customers, deal better with this.
So the remote workforce, I imagine you've always had remote workforce. What are you suggesting to customers about how you manage remote workforce and how you can help them to use that data to use that workforce most efficiently, not just software writers, but obviously you're serving companies that aren't software driven, although they may be digital in nature. What ideas are you sharing with them about that?
So, we're blogging quite a bit about it. So there's lots of blogs on SumoLogic.com about sort of working from home. A lot of this is around quality of service and security of remote workforce, right?
Yeah.
Quality of service obviously is, are we able to effectively leverage technology? Like one of the biggest things that came our way when our customers switched to remote workforce is everybody ran out of VPN capacity. Virtual private network, right? All of a sudden, when you're in the office, you just tap into your network right there. But when you're remote, you have to use VPN. And all of a sudden, because nobody built capacity for everybody to work from home all the time, all of a sudden, everybody had issues, and everybody wanted us to give them a visibility into their VPN, capacity provisioning, management of that capacity. And so we spent a lot of time giving them essentially a lens into their VPN, remote access endpoint, and things like that. Was one of the first things. And second was, managing their virtual video conferencing systems, right? And Zoom was the biggest one, and we use Zoom internally. And so everybody wanted to know, like, how many meetings are happening in parallel, how many people are attending, what are they applying the security policies that we prescribe? Are they setting up new meeting invites and all this stuff for every meeting and not using their personal ones so that people can kind of just jump into an old link and things like that, right? And so we basically help them essentially manage the workforce, be able to make the workforce productive and make sure that workforce is operating securely.
Mm-hmm.
So those are the things.
Yeah.
So that's amazing pivot and a lot of agility there. What did SumoLogic do prior to all this? We talked about what the leaders may have been doing, but what did you do as an organization that you think allowed you to pivot so quickly and then to so rapidly produce new content for customers?
Yeah, so it's a good question. We've been having to do this since we founded the company because in the last decade, the technology rate of change has been sort of wild, right? When you look at adoption of the cloud, adoption of multi-cloud, adoption of microservices, technologies like Kubernetes and serverless functions, like there's been a 40-year evolution in the last 7 or 8 years.
Yes.
Technology. So we have had to adapt and generate this type of content and turn on a dime since we began the company, and all of a sudden we simply had to shift our focus to adapt to some of this COVID stuff. But the muscle memory that we've built over the last years is what helped us, right? That team that generates the content happens to work for me. That's just how we're organized at Sumo, and so we've kind of built the capability to essentially generate this content very, very quickly, deliver it to our customers, and monitor the usage so we can improve the content continuously.
Wow.
Bruno,
wow.
So one of the things that I'm always interested in, and Mike and I, this is what we write about and talk about in terms of leadership, is how we develop leaders.
Mm-hmm.
And what I found with the technology industry is it moves so fast that it's kind of just an issue of, who's next in line. You'll just step up and do what you have to do. But what do you find about the trends in technology industry around leadership development, how leaders are developed? Is it just a case of, it's like, a football game or a soccer game, that player goes out and somebody else steps in on an injury? How do you develop leaders at a place like Sumo, and what's the leadership values and expectations that you have?
It's a good question. We actually spend a big part of this is the culture, the core values of our culture. We spend quite a bit of time thinking about this. Every Monday morning, we have new hires starting, and I take an hour and a half every Monday morning to take our new hires through our vision and strategy and through our culture. Right? This is a step in sort of making sure that we are all aligned, right? And so the leadership core values that we subscribe to are all centered around, customer centricity, transparency, collaboration, learning, and working with heart. And the way that we apply those values internally is number one, we look for people who match them when we hire. So we really care to bring in the right talent to the house. And we don't really, we look for passion, but we don't look for necessarily for things like passion into Sumo. We look for passion in the person. And we know that if people are passionate about things, they will bring their passions to work, and they will apply those passions to, if they're aligned with your strategy, they will apply those passions to, to help you achieve those goals. But what we also do is we believe in accountability. We believe in empowering people. We believe in encouraging people to take calculated risks. We believe in people, in empowering people to question and to seek data, to want to understand why decisions are made, how decisions are made. We encourage people to question decisions, to in order to help them develop a decision-making muscle and ability to lead themselves. In this sort of fast-changing world, in a relatively small organization that we still are, I know that we are now a public company, but we're still a peanut-sized company compared to many of these large companies we compete with. We depend on our individuals in the trenches, making decisions, moving fast, and basically seeking assistance when they need it, but otherwise run fast, make mistakes, fix those mistakes, take ownership of them, and develop better things, right? And so, that's how we do it. And there's always methodologies in hiring and all that stuff. But that's basically empowerment is a big
yes.
Yeah, well, we just participated in some global research on organizational culture, and one of the big questions for a large client was what drives innovation. And it's just the things that you mentioned. First of all, you got to know the marketplace, but you got to be very, very clear on a mission and vision, and how what an employee's role is in that vision, and then let them go, provide them the data. I like the idea of decision-making muscle, but that's the keys to culture. The interesting thing is that's also what drives retention. Through engagement. So you get that double whammy there. So
that's right. Strategy. I tell a lot of folks who start at Sumo, strategy is knowing what not to do, because you can do many things, but you got to focus on stuff. And then culture eats strategy for breakfast. Mm-hmm. No matter what strategy is, if your culture isn't good, you're never going to be able to execute. And also, strategy is what attracts people to your company.
Yes.
And culture is what keeps them coming back. Right. So these two things are like a yin and yang, and are extremely important in company success, development of talent, retention, all of that.
Great.
Beautiful.
Great example. Thank you for that.
Yeah. So, Bruno, as we wrap up, the question that we've been finishing with folks about is, assuming there's been no hardship for you as a result, or your family as a result of COVID, most people think about what the pandemic has done to them or to us. But we've been asking, what has the current social and business challenges done for you? Yeah,
it's really an interesting question. I think it's actually a more interesting question than what has it done to us. So I think here's basically there's two answers about the broader industry, my perspective on, and one is on Sumo. I think to Sumo, this has made us stronger. It has allowed us to improve. Like, we actually, if you know about Sumo, we are, obviously started, and majority of the company is in the, the center point of technology, right, in Silicon Valley. Extremely hard to hire, retain, expensive, real estate, people, everything, right?
Yeah,
We've learned how to work remotely. We now feel we can leverage talent everywhere around the world much more effectively. We can get better, more talent that we can retain longer. We can, empower them to collaborate with our global company already. And I think that's going to help us continue to grow the company and continue to attract excellent talent. I also think that this is the case for many other industries, not just information industries. Right? There's even in non-information industries, if you're going through digital transformation, there's a lot of technology and a lot of software and information that needs to be done. And I think a lot of companies are going to be able to deploy that workforce more globally, more remotely, more distributed in a distributed way. And I think it's going to help us all. It's going to help actually people around the world, stay closer to families, live where they want to live, and get fulfilled by being able to do the work that they want to do. And I think that's just going to help and benefit everybody, companies and humans. And I think that's a great thing, right? Of course, some people are going to want to be in centers and want to do the things the old way, and that's fine. But people have choice. People will have choice.
That we have several clients that just completed sort of checking in with the employee kind of surveys, and a large percentage of employees want to stay where they are, stay at home. And I love your perspective. I have relatives in other country, and I talk to them weekly now, when I might have seen them every other year or something. So it is a phenomenal change. Great perspectives. Well, thank you. For joining us. And you mentioned the blog. Where can people go and join the conversation?
Yeah, on SumoLogic.com. On our, there's our blog link is there, and we publish blogs quite a bit, and they're not all techie and nerdy. There's lots of them that are relevant to sort of a broader level of thinking about business, about decision making, and things like that.
Great. Well,
and
again,
if people want to connect with you, go do that through the Sumo website, or is there a
people who want to connect with me, you can reach me at Bruno at SumoLogic. I'm also on the website, so it's easy to get a hold of me.
Yes.
And so you're welcome to do that.
Yeah, I like the picture with the was it a sumo wrestler on your shoulder?
That's right.
Great. Well, I would love to have talked about wine here, but maybe if you have a few minutes when we're done. But
sure,
be interested in learning more about that. But again, thank you for being a guest here on the Leadership Cafe. As a thank you, we'll send along a copy of our new book that Rich and I will sign when we can get together from social distancing. Of course, we'd also like to thank our sponsor, Vaco. Without them, this couldn't be possible. And they've really created an important place where we can hear from some very interesting and enlightening leaders. The webcasts, when we get them published, will be available on Richard's website, on my website, on the Vaco website, vaco.com, as well as on LinkedIn, Spotify, Pocket Casts, and hopefully on the SumoLogic site as well.
Get it on the blog.
Yeah, get it on the blog. Of course, we want to thank our producer director Michelle Jarzowski, who's working behind behind this curtain here to make sure that everything goes well. We appreciate her amazing support. So for all of us at the Leadership Cafe, thanks for joining in. I'm Michael Couch.
And I'm Richard Citron. We look forward to connecting with you on the next Leadership Cafe. And Bruno, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, guys. It was a pleasure.